Welcome to the show. We hope you have a blast. Thanks for making time for the Dealer Talk podcast. Another business leader, here's a penny for your thoughts. This ain't a regular conversation, baby. This that Dealer Talk. Yep.
What up? Welcome to another episode of the Dealer Talk podcast. This is your host, Herb Anderson. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's check in with our co-host, Miss Charity Ann Farmer, who has a broken camera today, but we're going to roll with it because that's what we do here on the Dealer Talk podcast.
It seems like we're always rolling with some kind of technical error. Is that just part of podcasting?
No, that's part of, getting good at doing something. At first, you got to suck at it in order to do it well. So
Did you just say that I suck at this?
No, but there's stages, there's levels. I think we're getting better. We're getting better.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Dealer Talk podcast.
Yeah.
Let's check in.
You just had to, huh? Wow. One of the worst thing about podcasts is this portion here, in my opinion. Like the small talk and stuff. Like people tune into this to get the information and move on with their lives.
Oh, that is not why I tune into podcasts.
Well, but like the majority of people. That's why the shorter the podcast, the better. And ours is, we're going with this long format style for this season. So, we gotta, Luis, every 10 minutes, put something in this episode, some sort of a zinger or something, like a noise or,
like a ding, stop talking. You know that the Oscar sound when they've been talking too long and they have to get off?
Oh, yeah, there you go. That would be hilarious.
That'll be for you. You know that, right?
I don't talk long. I don't rant. I ask questions, because I'm curious and I want to get information.
This is what we should do. At 1 minute, if we've been talking for a full minute without pause, then put the sound in.
And then it'll barely happen. I don't think anybody talks that long, except for you, maybe. In some
You do. I don't get a word in edgewise with you around.
So no, it's funny. I'm excited for today. We're gonna have JT from AMG, Automotive Marketing Gurus. Really love these guys and what they're doing, and all the information that they make available to dealerships from a marketing standpoint. I think it's super valuable, and it's just weird that with all the tools and all the systems that exist out there, there isn't something that's already automated that does this. They have different ways of capturing information from all these different places and making them available in these very digestible reports. So, I like data, so it's going to be a good conversation for sure. Man, I probably made it close to that 1 minute mark. But these guys are pretty awesome. So, yeah. So anyway, JT, excited to talk to you, man, here in a little bit. Moving along, I want to remind everybody about our very first ever Fill a Card event, which I'm super, super excited about. That is where we will be taking some money that we've put together from our own personal funds and as well some partnerships with the amazing people from Run My Lease and CoVideo. And we're going to be feeding some folks in November. So if you want to learn more about that, go to the show notes to the Fill a Cart link so you can learn more. And if you're either a vendor or a dealer listening to this and you'd like to help us out do more, then send us a message either on the form that's on that page or call me directly at 702-526-0900. Again, that's 702-526-0900. Hit me up and help us give more. Okay, so this was an interesting week. We were at Digital Dealer, connected with some folks. So let's talk a little bit about that before we get into some automotive news and some of the other things. What was your take? Digital Dealer 2022.
I thought it was really exciting to be able to meet people that I've talked to before a lot of people that I've talked to before that I've never actually met in person. JT being one of them. We got to meet JT in person for the first time.
Yeah.
And that was
awesome.
exciting. Jared Neves. Who else? The whole Four Eyes team. Well, I guess I already knew Adam, but he might be the only one I've ever met in person.
Well, yeah, I don't think Lacey we've met before in person, and then some of the other folks. But obviously they're the main sponsor of the show, and they sponsor the whole season. But
but that's just the way it is these days. Like you make all these relationships with people via Zoom post-pandemic anymore, and it's just the weirdest way. Back in my day, it's an interesting way to make friends. And then the part that I think is interesting is that some of these people, you walk up to them and you're like, what's up? And you just start talking to them like you've been having a conversation with them for the last 6 months, and you've never actually met them in person before. And I think from a sociological perspective, that's fascinating to me. But I liked that part a lot.
Yeah, well,
I like networking.
The car biz coach had a saying, treat the pixels like people, right? And we make all these relationships digitally, and we have to make sure to kind of nurture those. And then you obviously have the opportunity to meet in person, which it's great and it's weird all at the same time, because you've kind of met this person, or you've interacted with this person, collaborated with them, but you've never really met them. And so there's that element of it too.
I don't think it's weird at all.
It's kind of interesting. Excuse me. It's kind of interesting. I lost my train of thought there. It's kind of interesting because I was seeing this thing on the metaverse yesterday, which was super weird and bizarre and awesome all at the same time. And it was basically these virtual meeting spots where you could join either in person, or you could meet in the metaverse, like with enhanced reality or something like that. So your avatar is there, and you can kind of collaborate like you were in the same room as that person, but you're kind of like in different places. And I was just like, wow, man, this thing is getting really, really weird. So I imagine being all in avatar form in a room, collaborating. It's cool, right? Like the concept that I like what I was talking about, but it's also kind of strange at the same time.
There's a movie. Oh, I can't remember the name of the movie, where everybody just lives in their houses, and they have like robots that are who they are, and they go around hanging out, but in robot form. And then all of a sudden the robots stop working.
Robot or in the augmented virtual reality? There was I can't remember.
It wasn't robots.
I can't remember the name of the movie either, but they were pretty much doing that, wearing the headsets and stuff, and they were all going into this virtual reality world, and they had these,
right. And the scene I remember is that there's like this one scene where they think, because the virtual reality version is built out to be one thing, and then it shows who the real people are, and that's not them at all. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I know what you're talking
about. That's the part that I always find is like suspicious.
Right. What else? Any companies, anything that you saw that was interesting that we can, for those who did not go, we can talk about here for them to check it out?
Any companies to check out? VinQ.
Right, but we've talked to VinQ before. So, if you want to learn more about VinQ, go listen to our episode about VinQ. I'm talking about things that were new and different, and you know what I mean?
What about you? Did you have anything that was new or different?
Oh, I like that. Asking me back the question because you don't want to say anything. Very good.
No, it's because it's obvious that you have something you want to say. Smooth, and I'm going to dance around it until I find it, so you might as well just say it.
Smooth operator. Hey, Luis, make that better. You know what I mean? Okay, so yes, I have a couple. So the one that I liked was iPacket. I like the ability to put your service your service inspections in there, your brochures, making it all more transparent.
Where was I when you went to iPacket?
I don't know. But that was one that caught my attention. I really like that company. It's funny because the rep was calling me about one of the groups that I work with, and I just didn't like his approach. He was too aggressive, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'm not interested." And then he's like, "Well, are you not interested? Can I, or are the GMs not interested?" And I was like,
Ooh.
"Yeah, right." And I was like, "I just told you I'm not interested." And it's not an ego thing. It's just like, dude, come on. Like, that's just the wrong approach.
No, that's a good line.
No,
I like that line.
That's not a good way to get your foot in the door, right? So
with you, it's not.
No,
it's obviously worked for him in the past, or he wouldn't use the line.
No, it's not that, because you're knocking on the door the wrong way. Like, if you really want to get in, show me the value. You know what I mean? Why should I stop what I'm doing to listen to your pitch? You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of vendors make the mistake of having that approach. Like, it's not the responsibility of the people receiving the message to stop what they're doing to listen. It's your responsibility to give me something to listen to that it's going to help me move the ball down the court. But that it's just the wrong approach. And that's the wrong approach. Anyways, so but I did like what I saw, right? When I clicked on the link, and because every time I get something from a vendor, I always research it, because especially if I don't know what it is, because I like to do the demos and I like to learn and know what's out there. And so I stopped by the booth, and I really liked their offering. I think there's something there, but I haven't done a full demo yet, so that still needs to be explored. But I think that iPacket is one to look at. Another one that I liked was, and this one I've known for a minute, but just doing the demo again kind of got me thinking about it, and that's Automotive Masterminds. I like I don't know, I kind of have a hate and love relationship with not with that company per se, but with the offering, which is direct mail. Like, they're heavy on direct mail and email. I think for your DMS, that's really effective, because they're the cheapest. They're the lowest hanging fruit and the cheapest value proposition, or not value proposition is not the word, but the lowest cost effective way of getting new business, right? Because there are customers that said yes to you, and there are customers that continue to buy from you, or continue to service with you every single year. And so, yeah, you just
and I think I think direct mail just matters on what your market is. Like, where I live, we have it's a retirement community, so they all still check their mail. We get people who call into the dealership to tell us that we're mailing to the wrong house. But myself and I haven't checked my mail in at least a week.
No, I get that for sure. There's some market considerations, but direct mail is direct and email is the cheapest way to communicate with I should correct that. Email is the cheapest way to market to a customer, right? When you do it to your DMS, it's the most cost-effective way, because those people are going to consume that information, or are more likely to consume that information. And then if you attach that to other initiatives, omni-channel now, like direct mail, social, texting, all that stuff together really works, in my opinion. And so I like their value proposition. And what I really like is their scoring system. I like that they score the customer, because the days of spending $20,000 for an email initiative, I think those days are long gone. But you can be very effective because there's specificity.
For the mail initiative? You said email.
No, yeah, from a direct mail initiative. Because the specificity of the data makes it more attributable. Meaning, like, you can choose 1,000 customers in whatever segment. Let's say you're trying to buy cars, right? Customers that are more likely to sell you their vehicle, and you can pull 1,000 of those customers from your DMS and send them a direct mail if you've done the data cleaning the right way, and you're going to get some hits off of that. So you don't have to do the spray and pray anymore, where it's like 20, 30 grand to just hit everybody in your radius to try to get them into your store, or hope and pray that, hey, this person is in market. And so the scoring combination with email, combination with your DMS, and then combination with the data partners that they have, I think all those things together, I think that there's something there to look at.
Also, shout out to Salil. Hey, girl. Hey.
Yeah, she's awesome. Let's see. What else did I see there that was kind of interesting? Obviously, some of the partners that we do business with, like VinQ, I think is always a good one. Run My Lease, Jared Neves, we already talked, kind of gave them a shout out, but I love their product. I love their initiatives. I love that they're flexible. Car Now is there too, which was great to connect with them. And then seeing Bob, obviously, transitioning from Facebook over there. I think that's a great grab for them as far as, having somebody there that can really.
And on that note, thank you so much for letting me tease him relentlessly before you told me who he was.
Who,
Appreciate
Bob Lanham? Yeah, right. Let's see. Shout out to Van, who hooked us up with some passes. So thank you, sir. Thanks, Tom and team over there.
For the swag.
Yeah, and then our trusted partner from Cox Automotive, Mr. Mike Bellis, also hooked us up with some passes. So we stopped by to see what they had, but he was too busy to chat with us. So
he gave us like the brush off wave. Hi.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was like, yeah, okay, cool, man.
That means 2 lunches.
Yeah. Hey, man, two steak lunches.
Who else did we see?
Oh, I stopped by. I think you were at the Co-Video booth, but I stopped by Dealer Logics, and I've known of them for a minute, especially from my GSM days. But I really like their value proposition, and again, we've been talking about the impact of service and how that's going to be something that is, I feel like that's coming down the pipe, where we're going to be looking at our fixed ops departments to kind of help us with our numbers here in the next couple of months as we navigate through these financial uncertain times. And, I think they're a great company that has a lot to offer in that sector. And I think they made some acquisitions recently with Text to Drive and another company that the name escapes me, but the combination of all those tools really allows them to offer a full suite of products. So
I love going to the conventions and seeing everything. I love it.
Yeah,
more.
My biggest thing is the breakout sessions. Like the one I really wanted to go to was jam-packed, so we missed that one. And I wish we would have time to do 2 days in a row to do more of those, but it kind of is what it is. We just didn't have.
That's one of the things you run into when your day job is so close to Vegas. Is my boss just is like, oh, you could just go down there for a minute, just hop, skip, and a jump down there and check things out and then come back. You can't commit quite like you can if you have to fly in.
Right, for sure. So, anyways, that's our digital dealer recap. So let's get into some automotive news. So here's one that I wanted to talk about, and it has to do with Nissan. It says Nissan launches ultra low mileage, pay-as-you-go lease, which is kind of interesting to me. Here are the highlights. Nissan Motor Acceptance, launched a lease program Monday called Signature Flex that has customers start with 5,000 miles per year and add more as needed throughout the life of their contract. I think there's more in here, and obviously this is something that you can look up. But I really like that. I think that the creativity is kind of at the forefront right now. We talked to his last name escapes me, but is it Paul that won the contest for driving sales? We scheduled a meeting with him yesterday, I think, to have him on the podcast.
Yeah.
So Paul was talking to us at a after show get together about his whole leasing program, and it just got me thinking about how critically important it is for us to have just have flexibility, creativity, I guess is a better word, and to see the manufacturers kind of find ways to do that. I mean, it's great, right? Because I think at these times it's needed, and it's also one of those things that I've mentioned about the COVID situation that I really appreciate, is that everybody's thinking, right? Everybody's got these ideas floating in the air, and they're more willing to experiment and try different things. And I don't know, I just think that that's going to lead to a better industry, and I think a lot of that stuff is trickling in, and we're going to see more and more of it, just because I think our mindsets are we're kind of pushed into that, pushed into gear in that way, I guess. But anyway, there's another one here, Charity, that I think you would appreciate it. Non-Tesla brand gains momentum in new EV registrations in the United States. So Hyundai, Ford, I think are two that have increased in more registrations for EVs. And that, I think that's also really cool, because I don't know, I mean, that just,
they're more affordable for people.
Right. The competition is going to lead to innovation. That's going to lead to obviously affordability, but more than anything, it's going to lead to the infrastructure that we need in order to get the conversion from ICE to EV that I hope we see more and more of. Now, I'm not advocating for full EV, and I think that, I stand by what I said on a couple episodes ago. I still feel that hybrid was a better approach, but hey, man, if we're really going to commit and go in that direction, then these things help kind of push the agenda forward. So
I would like to just take a moment to note that you're the one that brought up hybrids and EVs this time.
Yeah, I sure did.
Well, yeah. So Stellantis is been ordered to pay. When you get in trouble with the law, do they order you to pay it? They've been fined. The automaker will pay a $2.8 million civil penalty and a $2.8 million and another $2.8 million to bring more electric school buses to the schools in South Coast Air Basin. They got in trouble for their emissions and were found to be fraudulently, it said the terminology was defeat device software in their 5.7 liters. So that just happened. Which is interesting, because those were all, I mean, at the risk of having literally no idea what I'm talking about, Stellantis didn't own them when that happened. And then Stellantis bought them knowing that they were going to have to follow through with all of those legal issues. I find that interesting.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's like, I saw this post the other day. Somebody's talking about how Elon Musk was dumb for buying Twitter and paying $20 more per share because he had a $44 valuation or something when the company was worth 24 or 34 and he paid 54, something like that. I don't know. I don't remember the specifics, but and I'm like, dude, that's premature. You don't even know what he's going to do with that or why he offered that. You know what I mean? So value is in the eye of the beholder. And when these companies make these deals, if they have the information and they decide to pay more, or they decide to acquire bad debt or whatever, these folks are not stupid, man. Like
right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, obviously Stellantis knew that this was in the works because it's been going on since, you know.
Well, maybe they didn't. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, if they did and they still moved forward with the deal, it's for a reason.
Right. And that's what I'm saying, is that that's interesting to me, because they did.
Now, whether that reason pays off or not, we don't know.
Right.
But, you know, anyways, here's one that's interesting. It has to do with our good friends over at Carvana. So, used vehicle retailer Carvana, facing another setback, had its license suspended by Michigan on Friday for repeated violations covering titles, registrations, and odometers.
Michigan, they hit back on that one.
Who did?
Carvana did. They pushed back.
Oh, well,
they said that they were being singled out or something. I was reading about that.
Hold on. There's more here that I wanted to read here. Michigan's Department of State on Friday said that the license for Carvana had been summarily suspended for several alleged violations of the Michigan Vehicle Code. So that's okay. So it's hard not to sound biased, right? Because, you know, obviously I appreciate Carvana for what it is and what it does, but I'm not a believer in the model, just because I don't think that that's how customers want to buy. And I've said it repeatedly on the show that we're so premature with that, with the information, or not the information, but with the assumption. Because yes, I think customers are purchasing like that, but if you look at their reviews, there's a lot of negative reviews from that experience. Secondly, just because you bought the car that way now doesn't mean that you're going to buy the car like that forever. You could have gone through this experience and really turned you off from doing it ever again. And there's just not enough data, historically speaking, to you know, make these allegations or have these, I don't know, these unfounded, or not unfounded is not the right word, but we just don't have enough information. Yeah, we just don't have enough information to know what it's going to look like, you know, 10 years down the line. Remember, the customer buys a car, we see it as a threat because we're in this deal all the time, right? But the customer, you know, the customers make these purchases only a few times in their lifetime, and so, you know, it's still too early. And so to see these kind of things happening, who knows, man? Who knows where the next 5 years are going to be, and if consumers are really going to stick to that. So, so what did you say that they pushed back on? Did you have some more information?
I just read the headline, and I just saw it like this morning or last night, but their response to that was that they were being singled out by the government, the Michigan government, for, I mean, so essentially they're saying, yeah, that's not fair.
Oh, well, yeah, sure we're going to try to, you know, work their way out of that. But so let's talk about our blog post of the week. All right, so this week we're talking about Fixed Ups Digital. I know we had this go out a couple weeks ago and we kind of skipped it, but anyways, I think that number one, we just saw them at Digital Dealer. These guys are amazing. I really love what they do for the kind of like the pre-side of fixed ops marketing with their content landing pages. Now they added video to that, and they have a social suite that we've been testing out at some of our stores, and it works really, really well. And then they have some other stuff coming down the pipe that looks very interesting that I don't want to talk about here. I'm sure if you're using them, you'll learn about it soon enough. But it's really good. What I like about them is that they take an approach and they put the importance on fixed ops, just as you were from the front of the house, like with kind of like an SRP and a VDP sort of a setup for your services. I like the service menu content as a former service manager. I hated the idea of having to put 3 offers there every month and it's always on the back burner, or you forget to update them, and then people go there and they're all expired, and it's just not a good setup. And so, and I like the SEO content value that they bring. Plus, again, with an uncertain financial situation that we're in right now, and that's kind of like the premise of the article that we released, is that, you know, don't wait until, you know, like you're suffering on the front of the house to look, oh, well, now we're going to think about doing something in service. Start thinking and preparing the ground for that now, right? I mean, you know, the reality is right now with good credit, you're talking about, I don't know, it's like 6-8%, somewhere in there. Bad credit is 10 plus. So, I mean, you're going to feel that. You know, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and they're like, they made a good point. They were like, well, dude, if you have bad credit, you have bad credit. I mean, if you're an 18 and you go to 23, like, do you really care? Probably not. You're probably just happy to get into a car. But if you have good credit and you went from 2 or 3 to 8,
yeah,
I don't know, man. Like, right. So
some of them are just 0.
You know, like, my point is, you know, don't wait like we always do in this industry to look back and be like, okay, now we're going to focus on fixed ops. Let's start preparing the ground now. And I think Owen and Kevin over there and their team, like, they do a fantastic job at helping us win more by, you know, fortifying our SEO presence, and then giving us some additional tools with search and social. Anyway,
did you know that Owen is from South Dakota? I didn't know that until I met him there. That's fun to me because I used to live in South Dakota.
I was going to say, that's so random. Like, okay. All righty then. Charity's from South Dakota. That's so weird, dude. Anyway, okay. So without further ado, man, I'm super excited, like I said earlier, to talk to this dude. This is going to be an awesome conversation. Be on the lookout for this company, for this gentleman we're going to have on here. These guys are going to freaking take over, I'm sure. Without further ado, Mr. JT from AMG. What's up, sir? How you doing? Welcome to the show.
What's going on, Herb? Charity?
How are you?
Doing awesome.
Dude, we are so excited to talk to you. I can't even tell you. It was super awesome to meet you in person over at Digital Dealer and have an opportunity to just sit and chat and learn, you know, meet your team. You guys are doing such amazing things, man.
Appreciate that. Very kind words. Feeling a little flattered.
Your team speaks extremely highly of you, by the way. I don't know if you knew that, but they all had really nice
they pay you to say that.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Yeah.
And slip you a cup of chips.
All of those glasses of water I had.
All right. So we kick things off here with an intro. So tell us about you.
About me. About me. Well, it's not too much to say, but you might not be able to tell it by hearing me, but maybe by looking at me. My mom is from Thailand and my dad is from Mobile, Alabama. But I am from a small town called Valdosta, Georgia, which many people may know or not know about. Was the headquarters of the eLead CRM call center. I actually worked there for a while. And then, been in automotive for probably 21 years now. I started in retail. There was a Honda, Mitsubishi, Kia dealer that had an ad in the newspaper. And I was like, oh, I can make $500 a week. Let's go. And, I walked in. I remember pulling up to the dealership, man, and I was wearing a suit. And I remember from the Mitsubishi building and the Honda building, sales managers came out. They knew what I was there for. And they were like, hey, are you here for a job? And I remember I let the Mitsubishi guy grab me, but then I did that for a few weeks. And then the Honda guy grabbed me over there. But that was where I found my passion in automotive. it was a really interesting time. The only reason why I did that was I was in school, and my goal was to be a software engineer. And little did I know, I had a Hope Scholarship I earned from my grades in high school, etc. And I skipped class that first year, and they failed me out of a few classes, no matter my scores, my grades. And so I ended up losing my Hope Scholarship, and I was just like, oh gosh, I got to go get a job, like other full-time jobs. So I went and did that. And then after about 6 to 8 months, I think it was about 8 months, I became a sales manager. And about 8 months in, I remember telling the general manager, and this was like right after, like 2 days later, you'll love this story. 2 days after, I just saw a salesperson like quit, right? And the general manager was like, "Get out of here, you sissy! You weren't built for this anyway. Like, get out!" And I was like, man, I was about to quit, and is he gonna say to me, right? But anyway, I said, Jason, this was a couple days later. I said, man, I'm going to go back to school. And he goes, JT, you probably see how I treat some of the guys that leave here, but I believe with you, if you go get a degree and you want this chair to be a general manager or wherever you want to go, you could do it. And when he said that to me, I just was like, wow. Right. So I went back to school, man. I lost my Hope Scholarship, but I grabbed a credit card. I swiped it. During that time, I think I had 2, maybe 3 jobs. Then I was going to school. And it was a really, really fun time. But one of those jobs was at eLead CRM as a call center agent. I didn't know what they did. People just were like, hey, it's the cookie company, and they have like a call center. And little did I know that it was tied into an automotive CRM. And when I started there, they only had 24 seats. And if anybody's ever been to the eLead call center when it was in its prime, it grew to 600 seats. And so when I started, they had 24. They had 24. Jeez. Yeah, so it just tells you, when Hugh sold that company, a few years ago for $450 million. I mean, they did a shake and bake, but did that and fell. I was going to school, working at eLead, and I was very blessed. I was a call center agent for about 6 to 8 months, and then moved to supervisor, moved to trainer. Then I was eventually a performance manager. I was very fortunate to work with Sonic Automotive, and that was where I built a lot of relationships with Sonic. And then shortly after that, the owner was like, man, we need to start a cold calling division. And so I started that cold calling division. But towards the end in 2019, where I had this transitional phase of, I really loved working in automotive and marketing, and I love technology. And I really built relationships with clients and the dealers, getting to know them, and whether I did business with them or not. And I also just got tired of selling products. Like I was like always selling a product. I'd call a dealer, be like, hey, how's everything going? By the way, you haven't bought this and you haven't bought that. You should do it because this other guy did it and he made $25,000. You want to make $25,000? The spiel. And I just, and it honestly wasn't fulfilling. It was just, I was just selling dealers products. So then I had this epitome of when I was working with all these stores that a lot of them don't have an expert on their side to help make good decisions around marketing and somebody to make sure that stuff's getting done right. They're not overlapping. There's so many times I remember going, oh, you already have this turned on, and like they'd have 3 of the same type of products, right? Mm-hmm. The manufacturer's doing something, and they got the other guy doing something, sales manager, service manager, then the GSM, and then like I'm like, what is going on? So, and it was funny, in 2019, I actually had a conversation with the CEO, John was a great CEO to me. He let me be autonomous, and I could he was like, just go, JT, we're going to pull your cord and let you go. And, I love that part of it, but I told him, I was like, man, I'm just ready to go. I think this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to go set up a business to help dealers, have somewhat of like a marketing director, right? For a fraction of the cost. And in November of 2020, I started the business Automotive Marketing Gurus, in which we're all totally focused on helping dealers spend less time and money on marketing so they can actually invest that time and money into their people. So my vision and dream is that literally if a dealer can save money on marketing, not to go save it and buy a boat or a house, but like take that money and maybe hire another sales manager or maybe buy more stuff for the customer service waiting area, or maybe take some of that money and reinvest it in the community and tech colleges and things of that nature. And take the extra time from not sitting on 5 hours worth of vendor calls trying to figure out click-through rates, and take that time to go out there and spend it with your team. Like, go out there and coach them one-on-one and be present. Don't hide behind the desk in the tower in your general manager office back there. Like, literally go out there and use that time to be with your team and your customers.
Now more than ever, businesses need more efficient sales. That's why thousands of dealerships trust 4Eyes to help with things like automated inventory email updates and ensuring all of your leads get into the CRM. To try 4Eyes for free, visit 4eyes.io/dealertalk. That's 4eyes.io/dealertalk.
And so it's been a wild ride. So that's a little bit about me, and we're in 72 dealerships today, and I'm super excited and who are helping, and knock on wood, we haven't lost any clients, and but it's been a really fun ride. But that's my journey in automotive in a elevator pitch. We're probably on the 38th floor by now.
So yeah, dude, I really like what you guys are doing. I think that there's a lot that I want to kind of pack into here for the next 20 or 30 minutes, so that we have an opportunity to converse with you. But I want to start kind of with the 50,000 question that you probably get asked all the time when you show people what you do. But where's the disconnect, man? Like, you guys have such a seamless way to present the information. And it just seems to me like, why doesn't this already exist, right? Like, why isn't there a place where you can go as a marketing director or a GM, GSM, and see everything, all the points connected from your CRM to your DMS to your Google API, or your Google Analytics connection through API, your Facebook connection through API, all in one area, and everything that's happening from a traffic, leads, sales perspective, it's all seamlessly tracked. Why do you think that doesn't exist already in like a Vin Solutions or a eLeads or something like that?
It's interesting that you say that. And what I found at my days at Force, when I first came in, I almost pretty much introduced looking at CRM data for them. And I was blown away that they hadn't already been doing that. And I believe marketing companies, CRM companies, inventory companies, and even if they're owned by a conglomerate like Cox, there's still such a massive fragmentation in how they bring this data lake, data universe together. And there's some forward-thinking companies that are trying to do this. But what's interesting is once I started showing them the CRM data, and they started to go, oh, wait, they didn't have a bad month because of maybe the marketing we did. Why is this other thing down? And why is their closing rates down? Did they change a manager in the store? Did they change a process? Or, oh, the manager was out 2 weeks on vacation. Okay. But the general manager goes, well, I had a bad month. I want a credit, or I need something back. But anyway, to answer, you know what? It blows my mind. Honestly, it still blows my mind. And even CRM companies today that are very forward, and even today, even their reporting today, regardless of connecting to inventory and budget and third party and your Facebook media and your paid media spend and having that all in one place, it still blows my mind that most CRM companies still don't have trend reporting. Like, to just show you month over month or year over year trends. Like, you literally have to run a date range, look at a report, go to another date range, run a report. And I'm like, why wouldn't you want to look and be able to easily see trends? That was like the number one thing that I hyper focused on. I remember building reports for Sonic, and they were like blown away, like from the corporate level. And, and a lot of it was just pivot tables, just building pivot tables within Excel. And I was like, what, they're a $1 billion company. Like, but they don't have internally. So even companies that need it, and the companies that supply the services, it just has blown my mind away on why it's so fragmented. And so I get so excited from just the reporting aspect. But then I take another look at it, right, Herb? And this being an expert in the field as well as Charity, you got all these dashboards and reports. Somebody's got different ones, and whether they're fragmented or even somewhat put together. Another big disconnect is, what am I looking at? Like you might have all these, maybe it is aggregated together. Because if it, let's just say it is, right? What am I looking at and how does it impact my business of whether it's good or bad? Number one, what am I looking at? Number two, what do I do about it? Okay, now.
Right.
I would add a third one to that too, is do I care? Right? Right? Because not all information is information that helps me do what I need to do. Like I hate when these vendors come in, and that's why I love what you guys do, because you put it all in one place. Typically what happens is you're having these silo conversations with your vendors and they're talking to you about this specific thing. Yeah. You might not even care about that. You know what I mean? And they want to take that little thing that they show as quote unquote successful, and they want to attribute all your success to that one minor contributing factor, so to speak.
And you're absolutely right. So it's like, do I care? How do I use it? And then, or what do I do? And then even if they kind of know what to do, they probably have to tell and get people to do it. And then you got to hold them accountable to doing it. Then you got to check back up on it. What I just explained is a marketing director's job to a degree, right? And what they should be. Now, the problem is with a lot of groups, and there's twofold to this, is even if you do have a marketing director, like they're typically undervalued, undertrained, and underled. A lot of and overworked, yeah. And a lot of times a marketing director or a marketing manager, they also call it an internet manager or a BDC manager, and that person is responsible for handling leads and processing, but then they also have to look at what's happening on the website. It's like a very convoluted role, and they don't understand the investment of, you have a service manager, right? You have a parts manager. Why you have a finance manager? Why don't you have a marketing manager? Now, and again, if you did have a marketing manager, and you do have a marketing manager, to my point earlier, is undervalued, undertrained, underled, and then they go, "Hey, well, go to Digital Dealer and like go learn some stuff." Then whatever. And then there's like no expectations. There's no bring back. Like when we went and I stressed this to you. A lot of people asked me. They said, "Dang, JT, you brought 6 people. I brought more people than Cars.com did." And Cars.com was like a major sponsor. And they were laughing like, "Man, you brought more than us." I said, "Well, you're here for a different reason. Number one, Cars.com is already branded. You don't need a lot of people here. You just need to be able to answer questions. But number two, I bring my team to go sit in sessions and learn." And that is and then what they have to do after they on Monday. So that's this coming up Monday. They have to present to the team what they learned.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
And so anyway, when you talk about the disconnect, obviously we have all these fragmented companies, and there's capabilities for anyone to use a free tool like Google Data Studio or Supermetrics or Tableau, and they could aggregate the data. They could, but number one, you have somebody to do it. Number two, what data makes sense before you get analysis paralysis, and number three, once you know what you're looking at, telling the people that need to make changes and holding them accountable. But one of the wildest things is a lot of people leave out the CRM piece. Like that's like the number one spot, and I know Herb and Charity, and and listening to you guys and seeing it, it's like, CRM is almost like the starting place. I got companies, like, especially digital companies, they're like, your cost per lead is $12, blah, 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 blah. Especially people that are running paid search. And I go, cost per lead? Well, so you're showing 500 leads. Are all those leads in the CRM? And they go, oh, because they don't know. And also they categorize a lead as anybody that submitted a chat, a form filler, or a call. A chat, a form filler, or a call. And they go, that's what we call leads. And I'm like, okay, so what if somebody calls in about their floor mats? Does a dealer consider that a lead? What if somebody called in there because they forgot their name of their salesperson? You call that a lead? And so they call conversion, they're actually just conversions. They call them leads. And I literally had a dealer runs a Toyota store go, JT, you need to talk to this company because they're saying that they generated 700 leads last month, and I want to see all 700 of them. And I said, well, sir, it's just nomenclature. It's a labeling. It's really a conversion. It's not a lead. And I guarantee you 94% of them are service calls, sir. He's like, well, they're calling them leads. I told the vendor, I said, hey, guys, until I'll change the nomenclature off this report, you might as well stop sending it to them because it's misleading. Even at my last company at Force, the report says leads. I said, guys, it's not leads. They're not leads. They're not leads. If I didn't log that person in the CRM, it's not a lead. And especially if 90% of them are service phone calls. So I'll get off my soapbox with that, and everybody know you feel what I'm saying. And Charity,
no, yeah, for sure.
That's some of the biggest differences. Is you have technology people and digital people who haven't been in dealerships, who haven't done the process, who want to name and label things. They have no experience. They couldn't sell a car, for the lack of them. But yet they're the ones that are holding and managing and giving a strategy for marketing.
Well, and I think that's the power and the danger of numbers and data, is that if one person defines it and then they don't give that definition to everybody else, they hold all the knowledge and all the data. One of the examples that I always use is if a BD agent has a show rate of 90%, everybody thinks, oh my gosh, they're so great at their job. And I say that means they're only setting appointments for customers that they know are going to show up. That's a huge disconnect. They're not taking any risks. They're not pushing hard at all. But you have to know what you're doing, and you have to understand the data in front of you to know that. And sometimes people just go, yeah, my team has a 90% show rate, so that means we're awesome.
Okay.
And that's the power of numbers.
I agree, but I also want to kind of push us a little bit to leave something for the audience here in the form of, if it's not a lead, then what are the KPIs? And it could be a combination. I don't know, JT, what are your go-to maybe 3 or 4 data sets, or maybe it's just one that you look at? But how can a decision maker navigate the success or failure of their strategies using the data? What are those data points? What are those data points?
So,
like, what kinds of definitions?
Yeah, you got 2 forms, right? You've got your CRM, and then you have your digital metrics. CRM, it's kind of good. It's been around for so long, and there's a lot of great trainers. You can kind of get these benchmarks. So to Charity's point, right? If your CRM account manager that's never sold a car, never been in a business development center in their life, never made a phone call like that in their life, they're going over reports. They're going to tell Charity, oh man, this person's 90%, looks really good. But because she's got experience and she knows, she's going to go, no. There's probably a little bit more to that story. If it was like 60, 50%, that's more realistic. 90 means I need to dig a little deeper. But that comes with experience. And so to your point, or what's very unfortunate today is that a lot of dealers are being taught digital KPI metrics, typically by vendor partners. And those vendor partners are the ones that are dictating what looks good or bad. And so if they're on a phone call, right, with their digital partner who they've hired and they trust and they pay all the money to every month, if that digital partner says, hey, your number is 2%, which is double the industry average of 1%. Wow, it's looking good. The dealer goes, okay.
Yeah, but I would, and then I say, well, yeah, but I'm not selling any more cars. Then what's?
Well, I get that you're not selling more cars, but what you're paying for did its part. So right?
Right. Well, I'm good.
This part did. Right. So, but what they're going to educate and say, and it's wild. I've been on. Right now we work with 16 different digital agencies, right? And I had one tell me about a metric that they go, oh, this is really good. The national average is X. And I said, that's not good. And they go, well, what do you mean? I go, that's not good. I see it with other vendor partners, and I'm just telling. Actually, what I did was I physically showed that person. I literally pulled up the screen of the report of the other vendor and said, this is what it should be. And then that person goes, huh. But that person at their company is used to their metrics and what their team is showing them. They're oblivious to all these other things. And that's why, and not to plug it again, but that's why, having multiple agencies and looking at the multiple differences, you can really go what's good and bad. And the beautiful part is, in my mind, one of our core values is motivated by success. And that's everybody's success, the dealer success, the vendor success. We want to raise all tides. We want to even the playing field, because if we can and they're capable, I'm going to go, hey, that's not good. Like, maybe try doing these different things. Now, I'm not going to give them the exact sauce of the other provider. I'm not going to show them. I'm not going to give them access. I'm just going to say, try these different things and see if you can improve. And if they can't improve, then I've got to make a change. Because if a B player can only be a B player, then I'm not doing the dealer justice, right? Just because the dealer loves the rep, I'm going to be like, hey, you didn't sign. You said you wanted a Cadillac, not a Kia, right? Well, they're only capable of being a Kia, sir. That's it. You're not going to get all the other bells and whistles. So to your point is, what I'm super excited about in what we're building with our technology is we will, as we add more clients, we've got 72, but my goal is once we have hundreds and if not thousands, we'll be able to have data that will show us from an aggregated level the goods and bads and uglies. And there's other companies that are kind of similar out there that are attempting some aggregates like that, like Vista Dash, Clairvoy is another one. But the biggest components I see that they're missing are still the same things. You know, it's like you're still missing this component. You know, your inventory is going to affect your leads. So what's your actual inventory to lead ratio? And it's like, they're like, what? Inventory to lead? Okay, forget about it. I just gave you $1 million idea. I'm not even going to say it again. Right. Right. So like, you know, and it's wild that, you know, it's just these simple things that you can think of, but it only happens with experience. And it only happens when you've touched it and seen it. And then my goal is once you've touched it and seen it, share it with others to make everybody better.
Right.
You know, so.
Yeah. So I want to interject here because this is, I agree with you. There's, you know, I think it depends, but there's three things, man. There's three things in my opinion that we need to be looking at. Number one thing as a decision maker, and I don't care if you're a GM or a marketing director or an analyst, whatever, the number one thing you got to look at within your marketing mix is duplication, because there's a shit ton of it. You gotta clean that stuff off. You know, from your communication to your DMS, if you're on some sort of OCPE or OCPO program or whatever, like you're bombarding your customers with all this messaging, with all these different touch points, with conflicting messaging, and we're already in an industry of distrust. And if you don't know what's going out to every segment of your customer at every single touch point of the ownership journey and the potential purchasing journey, you're missing. I'm telling you right now, that's causing you problems. The number two thing that to JT's point, simple questions like, dude, how many people go to your website in relationship to how many leads you receive? If you're a marketing director and you don't know something as basic as that, or the inventory to lead ratio, or how many appointments it takes you, what's your average appointment to, you know, for conversion, things like that, those little intricacies, or I don't know if that's the right word, but those little metrics rather, that you don't know simple answers, and that's simple math, right? It's a simple math equation, then you're missing out. And the third thing that to me is, you know, I don't know, probably the biggest one is your marketing mix, right? Because we're in this digital pitch, right? Everything's digital. I don't know, maybe in your town, direct mail works really well. Maybe in your area, direct mail is 20%, a 20% return. Maybe Auto Trader in your place of business works fantastic, and maybe Google sucks, and Facebook is really well. And it's gonna vary from market to market. And if you don't understand what the impact of those channels are, then you're missing out. And your marketing director, your marketing partner needs to have all these answers at the ready, which is why I really like what you guys do over at AMG, because the reporting that I see has all that stuff. So it doesn't matter if you're here or in New York or wherever, it's based on your market and your information, and that allows you to paint the picture. Right. And I think that there's a lot of misses because, to your point, like there's a lot of things that are done in the space right now that are one size fits all. And we're dealing we educate the dealers on these things, and we leave any room for, hey, this is my market and I need to treat my market a little bit different than your pitch or your KPI or the way that you measure success.
Well, and we silo everything so much in the industry. You know, the service versus parts versus sales, or this vendor versus that vendor. We do it with our data too. So I get like somebody who's in there looking at all of that can see changes that the rest of us don't necessarily see. Like with one of our dealers, they changed who they were using for their advertising. And there was a huge dip in the analytics. Most people won't see that because there's only like 3 or 4 people in the entire building that even knew that that had happened. That is the power of the tool that you have, is that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And you know, Herb, totally agree with you. And, you know, one of my owners, he owns 7s. He's a close friend of mine, was actually in our wedding, or at our wedding. Not in it. I didn't have any groomsmen, but he owns 7 stores, and he sent me this message, and he goes, it's a famous quote: "The cost of advertising is the price of an unremarkable service or product."
Oh my God, that's so good.
The cost of advertising is the price of an unremarkable service or product. And, you know, when he sent me that, it bled right into, you know, my main mission of helping dealerships spend less time and money on marketing, but it more enforced the fact that, and it's true, if you provide a remarkable service and product, that means not only that you're providing a remarkable service and product, you're probably treating your team very well. You know, they get time off. They're not working 60, 70 hours a week. Like, they feel like they have a great work-life balance. The customers feel like they're at home when they go to the store, and it's an easy experience. Everybody knows that the best money that dealers make off of customers, whether sales or service, is its repeat and referral business. Mm-hmm. And if they just focus solely, like 80% of their time, on mastering the art of the phenomenal process of a great service and product that they're providing. I mean, they don't even have to worry about the product the manufacturer takes compared to the product's part. So it's really just about the service levels. The stuff comes organically, and you don't have to spend as much on advertising. It really blows my mind when a guy's like, "Man, JT, like, send me more leads," or, you know, "We need more traffic." I'm like, "Bro, look at your Google rating. You're at 3.7. You need to fix that." Like, why aren't we focusing on that? Like, why don't we spend more money on training and getting your team to have a better experience? Why aren't we spending more time in the community to carve that reputation that you guys have built in the past? Like, that's what really, really blows my mind. And I just can't believe how many people just can't get out of their own way sometimes and go look in the mirror and go, maybe my team needs to be trained for 3 weeks, not touching a customer until they've been trained for 3 weeks. There's a great dealer group, Park Place, Mercedes-Benz, large group out in Texas. And one of this guy that used to work there, he told me, he said, "JT, you can't even be a salesperson until you've been there a year. You're just going through training and greeting customers, and you're in training and greeting customers. That's all you do. And you're mastering the art of delivering a great customer experience." I mean, there's no question as to why when you go to Chick-fil-A, in most places, you can get paid $17, $20, $25 an hour. And, like, you don't think of that as a fast food place. When people are going, it's like hard to get a job there, honestly. But, like, everybody thinks about when you go to Chick-fil-A and you leave and they go, "My pleasure." Process. Do you think that first day they allow a brand new person to go out there and, "Hey, go ahead and start taking orders and go ahead and start"? No, there is a training and a process. And I don't know why with businesses that are so responsible for millions of dollars and hundreds of people's jobs, that they don't have such a fine dialed in onboarding process for their employees. Because if they did that, it would create a better customer experience. It's just this whole cycle. So again, sometimes
you bring up a great point with the review thing, man, because sometimes I have this conversation. It's like, dude, really? That's your answer is marketing. Let's spend more on marketing. You really want to market a shitty process? Is that the goal? You really want to market that your process sucks? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And yeah, there's great dealers out there that have great process, but there's some shitty ones too, man. And the answer isn't like, "Oh man, I need to hit that money or that quota so I can get my money," or whatever. It's like, dude, how do we move the experience forward, right? How do we take this to a place where you don't need to spend as much money on marketing? Because that's the other thing. When your processes and your people are awesome, guess what? You have to spend less because your own customers are going to be spreading the word.
Well, that reminds me of our episode with Brian from A to Z Sync. I have a hard time with that one. culture eats process for breakfast. I asked one time at the Chick-fil-A line, were you guys trained to say my pleasure? And she goes, what do you mean? I said, do they train you to do that? She goes, that's just how my managers talk. Like, it's culture. Like, it's the way that we all behave towards it that changes the whole thing. Like the process, if you say this is the process and then you don't follow through and behave, it's like parenting, right? Don't yell at each other. But then you yell at each other, then that's nobody's learning anything.
It actually it does the opposite, right? It discredits you, right? Because how can you you know, tell others to do what you do all the time? And that's the other thing, like from because we kind of touched on leads, and I want to have that conversation because you guys are you know, obviously with all the information and the way you present it, I think it's a valuable question here. But what is your take on leads? Is leads really the answer? Is that what we should be focusing on from a marketing standpoint, or is it more digital traffic? Like what would you say, you know, where would you put the value of leads?
Leads, from a sales perspective, you know, I was in a session at Digital Dealer and I agree. I was like, there's no such thing as necessarily a bad lead if it's a real lead, like an actual human touched it and did it, not like some automated generated lead, like if a person like literally said, hey, I'm interested, or called in, right? Because there's some tools that'll auto generate leads, whatever, and call it a lead. But you know, I think those are important, but almost even more important is probably just quality conversations. Is counting the number of quality conversations you have that then convert into appointments and then shows. And then weeding out when you have a provider that is sending you a ton of leads, but you have really low conversations. Like one of the big things right now is Facebook lead ads. Like a lot of companies are pushing them, and you can get Facebook leads for like a cost per lead for like $5 and $10. But if you go in there and you actually look at the quality, it is some of the worst quality ever. But everybody's very hot on it. We all know that Facebook is hot, Instagram is hot, social's hot. I get it. But like I remember doing campaigns for Penske Automotive, and I would go over the reporting. I'd be like, bro, it's $2 cost per lead, man. What's the problem? And they go, JT, 0 sold, buddy. 200 leads, 300 leads, 400 leads, 500 leads, whether the phone number, the email, whatever, the customer doesn't respond. And so again, to answer your question, Herb, is like, what's more important? I really think conversation, counting quality engagements and conversations, like people that are actually communicating back with us. And that is what separates it apart. And so if dealers have CRM tools or tools where they can actually track the actual engaged conversations, that's the tools. And, you know, there's some really good CRMs out there. I mean, DriveCentric comes to mind when I think of that, because they literally have a scoring system. Another one is CRM Suite. They actually score the customer or the prospects or the leads based on their responses, them visiting the website, opening an email, opening or watching a video. And that helps you kind of fumble through all the, you know, lower quality leads, if you will. But then that helps you if you notice that a provider consistently provides you lower quality leads, and that's where you can potentially save time and money, you know, is eliminating some of those. So to answer your question, I mean, to me, conversations lead to opportunities. And whether that, and the other thing that, and Charity said this earlier, is the fragmentation between sales and service. Like I was on Clubhouse the other day in modern day car sales, and they were talking about, you know, selling tires, you know, service people. And they started talking about some sales stuff. And I was like, you know, how have we perfected the process when a new person's never been to the dealership, comes into the store, and you do the trade walk, you look at their car, you talk about their car, what they love, what they hate about it. And then you potentially go show them their car. And then they got, you know, F&I starting to work numbers, run credit. How often are we taking that customer? Hey, while we're waiting on that, let me show you our world-class service department. Bring like a pink clipboard or something that stands out. And when you're walking through the service area, because you got the pink clipboard, the service manager, the service advisors all know that that's a brand new person at the dealership. So then they know that's a brand new person. You're like, hey, that's our service manager. He's like, hey, welcome to Thompson Toyota. And now I've gotten a really great circumferencing experience for that person, because then they're like, oh, if I buy here, ooh, really nice to come service. Even if I don't buy here, I might come in here for service.
Right.
Like there's so many opportunities to improve the experience. And it's just these little changes that it's like, duh. But if we just spent the time and had a real checklist of training, like, did I train them on this? Did I train them on that? And did I go over that? Now, and a lot of people also think training is telling people things. And that is one of my most favorite things, because being a call center trainer, people, you know, and just training in general, and I've trained a lot, but like people think that when you go over a booklet, you go over a pamphlet, you talk to somebody, that it's training. Training is when that person does what you wanted, what you expected them to do to get out of it. You saw them do it. That's training.
That's training.
When they do whatever you were supposed to show them, when they do it, that is training. But it's so mislabeled. And again, the people that are training the people aren't trainers. So they don't know. They just think that they were supposed to go over this book. And they're like, hey, we're open page 1. We're going to go over this and talk about it. I'm going to say some things. You get excited. You smile. I laugh. You laugh. We laugh together. Okay, cool. Let's go have lunch. A person goes home that night and is like looking at the book. Like, okay. And the next day they got to do whatever they were supposed to do. And then they get nervous. They freak out. And then they do it wrong. And the person's like, oh, you did it wrong. I knew that person wouldn't do it right. Ah, man, I told you I doubted that person. It's like, what? They're not a machine. They're not a robot. It's because you sucked at training them. And that to me, to take it all the way back, I don't know where I just blacked.
One of my favorite things is when I've said to a manager before, the business development center needs more product knowledge. They need to be able to go out in the cars and touch and feel the cars. And the pushback I got was, they've done the training. They've done the OEM training. They're trained. And I'm like, that is not the same thing. Like, that's clicking a button really fast through a bunch of videos. That's not touching and feeling and experiencing the vehicle. But to go back to the conversation thing, I just ran into a statistic yesterday about, I was looking for statistics on leads. Do you know what the difference? Well, I'll just tell you. Phone calls convert 10 to 15 times more than a lead, an internet lead.
Like a form fill.
Sure.
Yeah. 10 to 15 times. You get them on the phone, you are more likely to. So your inbound phone calls obviously convert more, but we put everything onto the web, the internet leads. Well, what's your conversion rate on an internet lead? What's your conversion rate on a phone app?
Or even a chat or a text these days. We were really, I was blown away. This store, Lexus of Pembroke Pines. He was showing his numbers in a session, and he showed that he literally had 5 times as many text messages gone out versus his email form submissions. And so that means a lot of his things are triggered from text. So again, if we can't communicate via text, and even, taking it from phone to text, oh my gosh. But the opportunity is crazy. And to your point, Charity, 10 to 15 times when the customer's in the store. When I was on Clubhouse this morning, Alex Flores was talking about just getting excited. Like, people don't realize that you can win them over just by being excited, no matter if they can get done or not. And it blows my mind when people aren't excited either. Like, they forget about how blessed they are, and that, they're here today to even work at a car dealership, but they're probably sad because they missed breakfast or something.
All right. So there's one question that we ask everybody that comes on the show. But before that, I want to ask you one last thing, and that has to do with where we are right now with these uncertain times. What would you say from a analytics or marketing information? What would be some things that decision makers should be looking at probably within the next, I'd say, 6 months or so, to make sure that they're on the right path, regardless of where we're going with a financial situation, whether we have a recession or not, or whether we're in a recession or not? Because I know there's a lot of speculation, talk, and sentiments around that.
Well, if you don't mind, it's kind of multi-pronged, but number one is make sure you're not wasting dollars, overlap. Have somebody that's educated to make sure you're efficient when you're looking at all your channels and mediums, whether it be traditional, digital. But more importantly, manage your budget to the inventory that you have. That, you know, if your inventory goes up, then you might be able to spend a little bit more. If your inventory goes down, spend less. And if your partners and whoever's managing your budgets isn't managing your marketing efforts in conjunction with your inventory, that is a problem. And simultaneously and lastly is just focus on your experience and training your team. I mean, again, the price of marketing or advertising is the cost of having an unremarkable product or service.
I love that. That's good. Cherry, let's make that the title of the episode because I really, really like that. All right, man. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. This is a lot of good information. Again,
my pleasure, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm super excited for you guys. Love what you're doing. I think that's going to be this. You guys are going to go really far. And I just, I hope that you can connect with a lot more dealers and you can get some more exposure by us, by being here with us and hopefully tapping into our audience. So we'll make sure we'll make sure to put everything in the show notes where people can connect with you. There is one question that we ask everybody that comes to the show. And that question is, where do you see the automotive industry headed in the next 5 years and why?
More electric vehicles. Dealers will still be around. Dealers will still be a staple. We won't have as much incentives on vehicles. But yeah, those would be my hot three, you know. And it's so funny for the naysayers of electric vehicles, man. There's a company called Aiden Energy that is building a battery that could be charged in less than 15 minutes. So anybody that's like a naysayer, I'm like.
All right, folks, there you have it. Thank you so much for tuning in. That's all the time we have for today. Really appreciate our friend JT over at AMG Automotive. Please go to the show notes if you're listening to this on wherever you get your podcast fixed, or if you're looking at this on our YouTube channel, make sure to go to the video description, connect with JT, do a demo. I guarantee you will not regret it. These guys are amazing. It's going to completely change the way that you look at your business. I guarantee it. And thank you so much for tuning in. That's all the time that we have. And as usual, we'll talk later.
We only host a well-respected. The vendor Lexus Nexus. We don't sell digital marketing. What you do? We inspect it with our DT vendor management.
Now more than ever, businesses need more efficient sales. That's why thousands of dealerships trust 4Eyes to help with things like automated inventory email updates and ensuring all of your leads get into the CRM. To try 4Eyes for free, visit 4eyes.io/dealer talk. That's 4eyes.io/dealer talk.